If you're working as a health, fitness, or a wellness professional, you're going to run into clients that are dealing with erectile dysfunction. And when you can help clients improve this issue, it's going to be a really big deal. They're going to be a really big fan. So in this video, I'm going to help you understand the underlying cause of this problem and give you 5 steps that you can use with these clients to turn this situation around for you. They're going to be really excited. Let's get at it.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Now, if your clients have been Googling this erectile dysfunction issue, they're probably freaking out a little bit because the information out there is not super helpful. And it seems that the medical world feels like that it's things like cardiovascular disease and high blood pressure and high cholesterol and type 2 diabetes and obesity and kidney disease. These are the things that are causing the erectile dysfunction. But the reality is that these situations are just creating a circumstance in the body, and that circumstance is actually causing the erectile dysfunction. So the common denominator with most of these issues is high insulin levels. And the high insulin is creating a lot of inflammation and creating a lot of stress and problems in the body. Now, this isn't the only cause of the erectile dysfunction, but in this video, you're going to understand why this can be so problematic. So, to understand erectile dysfunction, we really need to understand the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system kind of runs a lot of the show behind the curtains. It's a lot of functions that we don't have to think about happening, they just kind of happen. You don't have to think about your heart beating, it just does that. You don't have to think about breathing, you just do. That's all from the process of the autonomic nervous system. And when it comes to erectile dysfunction, an erection is an automatic response. A person doesn't think, become erect. And if they are thinking that, then that's probably not helping the situation if they're having trouble. This is something that just happens automatically when the appropriate circumstance comes about. And the autonomic nervous system has 2 sides. It has the parasympathetic side, which is our rest and digest side, and then it has a sympathetic side, which is our fight and flight side. And both of these sides are appropriate. The body will switch back and forth and move into these states when it is appropriate for the circumstances. So what's important to understand about this sympathetic fight or flight state is that when the body moves into this state, it changes the way that the body is functioning. It will change its ability to function in a higher level to help prioritize survival, to deal with this emergency that the body is dealing with. So if a person's being chased by a lion, the body moves into this sympathetic fight or flight state, and it'll change the way that it creates energy, it'll change the way that blood flows through the body, all these steps that it can take to elevate the person's ability to function in this emergency and get away from this threat and prioritize their survival. So the body will make more glucose to create like a fast and immediate fuel source. The body can change where blood flows and put more blood towards the major muscle groups and less to the extremities. And you can even do a quick test with your clients right there in the office. You can just grab their hand and their tricep at the same time. And if their tricep feels warmer than their hand, then that can be a possible sympathetic imbalance marker. So that's something you can just look at very easily. You'll want to tell the client, hey, I'm going to grab your arm and your tricep, let them know what you're doing. But this is something that you can kind of confirm things. And we'll talk about some other markers as well. But if the body is pushing most of its blood flow towards the larger muscle groups, well, your little soldier is an extremity. And your little soldier kind of needs blood flow there to do its job. So this can be part of the problem. Another thing that's important to help clients understand is that this erectile function is a part of the reproductive process. So it's kind of important. It kind of allows our species to exist on the planet. So it's kind of a big deal. But it's not about like, hey, let's have a great Saturday night. I know that's what they want it to be, but it's really about reproducing and allowing this species to exist. So that's a big deal. But when you understand that the body will change how it operates depending on its circumstances, all of a sudden this erectile dysfunction can make a lot of sense. Because if the body's going to change to this sympathetic fight or flight state, it's going to prioritize survival and move the blood flow to these larger muscle groups that are more important to run away or fight off a lion or whatever the actual threat is. So in what circumstance in life would a person need to run away from a lion and reproduce at the same time? It's never going to happen. That circumstance is not going to exist. So it makes sense that when the body is prioritizing survival, that the function of reproduction would not need to happen at that time. So if a person's body is in this sympathetic fight or flight state, and they're asking the body to reproduce at the same time, they're asking the body to operate in a way that wouldn't make sense. So the body's not going to do that. So the real problem is that as the body switches back to a parasympathetic state and a sympathetic state as needed, the issue is that some people can get stuck in one of these states most of the time or too far into that state. Like if we see someone stuck in a parasympathetic state most of the time, we'll see things like allergies and asthma. And if someone's stuck in a sympathetic state, we'll see them kind of fly off the handle a little bit too easily. You know, maybe their temper is a little too fast. Maybe they're yelling at the mailman because they don't like the shorts that he's wearing, and they just kind of get upset a little bit too easily. So we can see these circumstances change when someone's really stuck in one of these states, and it can kind of create health issues like this. So to figure out if a client is leaning too far on this sympathetic fight or flight side, we can just look at their blood pressure to help us figure out what's called a pulse pressure. So with the blood pressure, we just take the systolic number, which is that top number, and we subtract the diastolic number. And the result is what's called a pulse pressure. So if you have a blood pressure of 120/80, when you subtract the 80, the result will be 40, and that's called a pulse pressure. So if that pulse pressure is greater than 46, that's a really strong sign that the person is leaning too far on this sympathetic fight or flight side. If you want to learn about other possible markers for the imbalance, my book Health Pro Results kind of walks you through other tests that you can run with your clients to get an idea if they're leaning too far on one side or the other. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link in the description below this video so you can get the whole thing totally for free. And that'll help you walk through that process and understand that situation. So if a client is leaning too far on this sympathetic side, you kind of want to look at first, okay, are they eating too many carbohydrates or sugars, and especially liquid sugars? Those liquid sugars can be really problematic because they hit the bloodstream a lot faster and can create a bigger sugar spike and a higher rise in the insulin levels. And that if that insulin's high all day long, it's really going to create a lot of inflammation and problems, and you want to help clients find ways to reduce their carbohydrate and sugar intake so that insulin can come down. And if a client's dealing with a lot of cravings and issues like that, we'll put a link in the description below to help them correct the problems that are creating those cravings so they don't need those carbohydrates so much. They may be having digestive malfunctions and other issues that you can help them correct to make it to where they don't need those carbohydrates and they're not going to have these crazy, insane cravings that they keep giving into. It's also possible that stress could be pushing them too far into a fight or flight state. So if they have a lot of stress in their life, or their job is really stressful, their boss is a jerk, they may need to take some steps to figure out how to simmer down a little bit and calm down and reduce that stress in their life. It could also be stress in their body that's creating the stress that the body is experiencing. You know, a person could be dealing with some type of, infection or overgrowth or, yeast, mold, fungal issues. All these things are really common to go undiagnosed in a regular checkup. So a person could be dealing with some type of really bad infection that's been there for years or decades, or maybe some type of heavy metal stress that the body is dealing with. But if the body is stressed, even if their life is not, that stress can still push them into this sympathetic fight or flight side. Another thing you hear about when you're talking about erectile dysfunction is it can be a nitric oxide issue. And all those blue pills that are magical that people use, they kind of work on that nitric oxide pathway. And this nitric oxide in our body is made by our endothelium, or that lining in the blood vessels. And it appears that this endothelium makes less nitric oxide with these circumstances like high blood pressure and high cholesterol and type 2 diabetes and all of those issues that we talked about before. So is it an issue where these problems are making the endothelium make less nitric oxide, or is it because the body is pushed in this sympathetic state? We don't know. We kind of see both of those circumstances going on, but this absolutely can be a factor. But a lot of people will say, hey, well, just eat more foods that contain more nitric oxide, like more leafy greens and stuff like that. But if a person is just eating cupcakes and ding-dongs, a little bit of spinach is not going to turn things around for them. They still need to correct what's creating the problems, and just using something like spinach or something can be a boost, but it's not going to overpower the trouble that's being created by the client doing too much of the wrong thing. So the 5 steps that you can use with your clients to help them correct this erectile dysfunction issue is to, number 1, help them watch their pulse pressure. Teach them how to look at their blood pressure and do that quick formula to get an idea, are they leaning too far on that sympathetic side? They can pick up a blood pressure cuff at any pharmacy for $30 or $40. So help them understand that if they can look at that number, maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, just keep an eye on it to see, are they moving in the right direction? Are the steps that they're taking improving the issue, or do they need to take other steps? So that can be an important factor. Number 2 is to help your clients reduce their carb and sugar intake to bring that insulin down. They need to find ways to bring the insulin down for at least part of the day so that there's not high insulin screaming at the body all day long, creating those insulin resistance issues that are going to make insulin go even higher and create even more inflammation. So this is the most common problem for a lot of those factors that they associate with erectile dysfunction. So why not help them bring that insulin down to correct such a wide variety of health issues? If you can reduce that stress that the body's dealing with, you can help move them out of that sympathetic fight or flight state. So helping a client reduce their carbs, sugars, and liquid sugars like alcohols, that can be a really big deal. Number 3 is to reduce any high blood pressure issues. If a client is dealing with high blood pressure, that's going to push the body into a more sympathetic, stressed state. So we really need to be able to help clients reduce high blood pressure when that's a problem. And my book will help you learn how to do that. If you don't understand how to help clients look at the physiology to figure out what's going wrong, that'll walk you through that process. But we really have to help clients bring down blood pressure when it's leaning too far on the high side. And number 4 is to correct any insulin resistance issues. If blood sugar is too high, that's going to be a real big problem. That's going to lead to high insulin levels. So we just want to look at a client's fasting blood sugar, and they can pick up a glucometer at the pharmacy pretty cheap too. And they can look at that blood sugar first thing in the morning, and if it's over 100, then that's going to be a problem. That's an indication that they're leaning too far on that insulin resistance side, and that's going to start magnifying those issues. So we want to help clients correct that problem, and my book kind of walks you through that process as well. And step number 5 is to reduce any stress in the client's life or in their body. That's going to really be the biggest factor in helping them move out of that sympathetic state. So if you want to learn more about this sympathetic state and learn about supplements you can use with your clients, things like taurine and methionine to kind of help them push them out of that overly sympathetic state, the appendix in my book has a big section about the autonomic nervous system that really explains how to help a client move out of that parasympathetic state or the sympathetic state. And we also have courses in our membership. Our Bio-I membership includes courses that you can give to your clients to show them how to run these self-tests at home, or you can sell these courses to your clients and you keep all the money. That's part of the membership, and we'll put a link in the description below this video so you can learn more about that membership as well. But you can get everything you need to know for free in the book, and that link will be in the description as well. For now, if you want to learn more about the sympathetic state, you can check out a video over on our channel for consumers on understanding a sympathetic imbalance. I can't wait to hear about your results.